Hello and welcome back to the MLB DFS slate breakdown for the Wednesday main slate, July 9th. I'm here, I'm breaking it down. We got a nice little slate this afternoon. As always, I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann. Come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, the props, the DFS. You get it all for one low price. Now, let's dive in, check out what we can undercover here for today's slate, but as always, we will start from the perfect lineups and the winning lineups yesterday, and then we will get into today's slate with the top pitchers and some stacks to consider. And just got to get this all situated here because we already got some games being played today. All right, so on to DraftKings. Our perfect lineup yesterday was Brayan Bello, Jacob Mizorowski. Those two guys absolutely brought it yesterday. Just huge games from them. Then hitting-wise, two-man A stack, two-man Cleveland stack. Not normally what you would see there from Cleveland versus Hunter Brown, but they got it done. And then we have some one-offs there. 302.05 was that perfect lineup score. The winning lineup, 216.2. Sean Smith, 2-2, got it done. He had Sonny Gray, who did enough. Brayan Bello went nuts. Chalky Bello, but he got it done. Minnesota with a four-man stack. Then we had a Boston, A's, Dodger, two-man A's. So a four-man Minnesota, two-man A's. Then we had good old Dodgers in here as well. Very interesting lineup. Congrats to the winner. And let's jump it in. Oh, also the one off of Boston there. So 4-2-1-1. And on to FanDuel. We got Brayan Bello, two-man Cleveland, two-man A's, some one-offs, 376.7. And then the winning lineup went to Imuller 1838, who also got first and second. Kind of interesting. They did the same lineup of hitters on both and just changed up the pitcher. Interesting situation there. Congrats to him. He won $55,000 last night, which also brings up a point I need to talk about. FanDuel, what are you doing? We have a contest where it's $50K to first and then $5K to second. That is insane, way too top heavy, and we need to flatten out that payout structure. They did a very similar thing in the early slate today where it was 10K to first, 1.5K to second. Like, come on, DraftKings, what are we doing here? Like, I don't want to play winner takes all type tournaments, and that's pretty much what it is. You got to win to stay profitable, because you're going to lose money if you don't get first with these type of or lose money over the long run if you don't get first with these type of playout structures. It's just terrible. Hopefully they don't stick to this, and everybody should complain to them, because that super top heavy structure is just not helping us. Now let's dive into today's slate. On to DraftKings, our highest owned pitcher for the slate, Lucas Giolito, 8.5K, 22% owned. Dude's been bringing the heat lately. A FIP of 3 over his last 5 starts with a 25% K rate. Over the last 20, FIP of 5.09. Now, this is a pitcher that's been in the league for a very long time. We have seen him go through stretches where he's very good and then gets absolutely lit up. Now, he's in a good spot versus the Rockies. Rockies have not been hitting, even versus righties lately. But 22% owned Giolito is very, very scary to me, and I am absolutely going to have some Rocky stacks with that. I'm going to play some Giolito. 85's 200 or 8,500's too low for what his ceiling is. So I like playing both sides of this. Absolutely love the leverage you get from Colorado, but I'm going to play some Giolito as well. 25.6% combined K rate at his price is super interesting. Next, we got Chris Bubik, 10K, 21% owned versus the Pirates. He might be my favorite pitcher on this slate at 10K. Guy has been bringing it all season long. Solid upside. Has a slew of high 20s and 30-point games. And has only really got crushed a couple of times. Super interested in this spot versus Pittsburgh, who just has been terrible versus lefties. They strike out a ton. 24% combined K rate. I love the upside of this spot for Bubik, and I'm going to have a lot of him. He's going to be the anchor of my lineup in a ton of lineups for that pitching spot. Next, we got Mackenzie Gore, 9,800, 7.5 game total. Big time upside. The A's have crushed him in the past, but 2023, 2024, he's been different this year. This guy has been crushing this year. He's struggled a little bit lately at 4.15 FIP over his last 5, but 3.04 over the last 20, 31% K rate. There's huge upside in this spot where this Cardinals offense has cratered lately. They have not been very good lately, and 25% K rate to righties or to lefties. I like this spot versus the Cardinals, who've been just bad versus lefties. And if that ownership is a little bit down because of BVP data or whatever, sign me up. I like it. Next, we got David Peterson, 9K versus the Orioles. I got to talk, first of all, this game very well may not play. Big time PPD chance in this game. Looks like it's going to have to rain, or going to have to play through the rain for it to play. So we got to watch reports here. If it looks better later in the day, the Orioles have not been able to hit lefties all year long. Now, 9K for a guy with a 19% K rate is hard to stomach, but Orioles striking out a ton. So I think there's a little more upside here than in most starts for David Peterson. I don't mind having a little bit if it looks like this game is going to play in clear of any delay threats. Also, not likely I get there. Dylan Cease, 9,300, 17% owned versus the Diamondbacks. Dylan Cease at home has been totally different than Dylan Cease away. I'm absolutely interested in Dylan Cease. 3.72 FIP over his last 20, 28% K rate. 3.97 over the last 5, 28% K rate. The StatCast data is very, very scary, but he's averaging 40% more fantasy points at home, and the ball just doesn't travel that well in Petco Park, so the fly ball rate isn't as bad here as most places, but you never really want to face this Arizona Diamondbacks offense. However, he has done well versus them. 31 in the first appearance last season, 22 in the second one, 28 in 2022 versus them. He has good history versus them. 9,300, huge upside. I'm willing to have a little bit. Now let's get into the pivots. Andrew Abbott, 9,500, 14% owned versus the Miami Marlins. They have struggled versus lefties. Abbott's solid, although K rate's only 23%. However, when he's really on, 11 Ks, 8 Ks, 5 Ks, he can also get deep into this game. So I do have a little bit of interest. 19% combined K rate is super, super low for 9,500, but nobody's going there. His upside is high enough to get it done at that price. Only other pivot I want to talk about was Slade Cicioni versus the Astros. You don't want to face the Astros because they've been hitting very well, but we have a 7.5 game total, 4.36 FIP over his last 20, 3.74 over the last 5, and a 23% K rate. He's been very good lately. K rate's decent at 8,300. I don't mind getting a little bit if you want to pivot. Outside of that, I'm probably staying in this range for pitcher. I think pitching's tough. At 6,900, I also need to talk about Alcantara. I don't mind going here. He is being 34% less fantasy points away, but 3.67 FIP over his last 5, 18% K rate. Maybe we can see him in a bounce back spot here versus Cincinnati, who hasn't been that dangerous lately. It is in Great American Small Park, which you never like, but I don't mind a little bit. Alcantara, 6,900 is just too cheap for him. Now, let's get over to pitchers on FanDuel. What do we got here? High owned, Giolito, 39% owned, 9,700. That is super pricey and super high owned for me on this slate. I would much rather go to a low owned Gore, low owned Cease, low owned Bubic. Now, I'm not going to totally fade Giolito. I'm going to have some of him, but would much prefer one of these options over Giolito. And outside of that, I'm probably not getting, too different. I don't mind if you want to go Andrew Abbott. That upside's there, and he's going pretty much unowned on FanDuel. So, but that's really, I got 5 pitchers I'm choosing from today on FanDuel. I'm not getting too wild over there. Now, let's get into some stacks on DraftKings. Highest owned, we got Boston versus Senzatella. We got to make up a nickname for Senzatella because he just gets blown up every single game. 5.57 FIP over his last 20, 5.35 over his last 5. The bullpen behind behind Colorado is awful. Give me Boston stacks, like their spot. 62% owned is not high enough owned for me to take him off. Atlanta versus Mitch Spence. Atlanta got crushed yesterday. Like the spot that they're in today versus Spence. Spence, 4.89 FIP over his last 20. 1.3 home runs per 9, but he gives up more home runs to the lefty bats. So if you're doing a smaller stack, prioritize lefties there. But I do very much like Atlanta. That's my favorite game environment, again, is that Atlanta one. If Baltimore Mets play, I like that one as well, but I do prefer this A's Sacramento game with Atlanta over any other spot. Cade Horton versus Minnesota. Minnesota's in a very good spot here. Cade Horton has got blown up a little bit. 4.38 FIP over his last 20. 4.22 over the last 5. Main thing here is he's almost given up 2 fantasy points per plate attempt, which is a very high number. It's showing that he gives up some hard contact there. Our highest projected stats, we got Boston, we got Cubs. Boston, we talked about. Cubs, too good of an offense to keep down for too long, and David Festa does not scare me that much. 5.54 FIP over his last 5, 4.68 ERA over his last 5, 4.68 over the last 20. FIPs have been decent, but he just gets blown up, and behind him there is a poor bullpen, below average bullpen. Cubs have been hot. I want to stay in the flames with them a little bit, especially when they're at these types of ownerships for 5-man stacks. That's just too low. Logan Evans, 4.68 FIP over his last 5, 4.74 over the last 20. Yankees are way too good of a team to not consider versus Logan Evans in this spot with the 9.5 game total, and they're huge favorites. So 5.1 implied total. I think you got to get some Yankees as far as your total lineups. High value spots, we got Colorado versus Giolito. I love the leverage you get from Colorado and the value you get there today. They're not being owned. You're going to get leverage. Giolito is going to be super high owned. I think Colorado, from a game theory perspective, is super, super interesting, especially when you mix in the type of pitcher Giolito is. He's boom bust. He gets crushed or he crushes everybody. So I like the spot. Cleveland versus Walter. Don't mind a little bit. Pittsburgh versus Bubic. I'm probably not really going there. Our high ceiling, we got the Cubs versus Festa and Arizona versus Dylan Cease. Arizona has some good splits and good BVP data versus Dylan Cease, but Dylan Cease is very good at home. I don't want much Arizona today. Maybe it's because I'm a homer, but I don't. High leverage, Arizona's popping up. Again, our leverage thing is a high projection with lower ownership. So the hitters just aren't getting very high owned, and they still project decently versus C's. Part of that is probably the BVP numbers. Because of that leverage, I don't mind a little bit, but I'm not going to go that hard on Arizona today. Now, highest implied run total, we got 5.7 for Boston, 5.5 for the Mets. Again, this Mets versus Baltimore game very easily could be a postponement, so check that. I do love the Mets spot if they're playing against Sagano, so I'm going to have some if it looks like the game plays. I think we should know before lock, though, if that game is going to play or not. If we don't hear anything before lock, they're going to try to play through rain, possibly. A's 5.3 versus Bryce Elder. Elder 7.33 FIP. I absolutely love that spot. I love this game. I think the Braves going against Mitch Spence at 5.2 on the other side is another really, really good spot to target. They might be my two highest owned offenses with Boston right there. I think far and away those are my three favorite stacks. KC versus Falter. I don't mind a little bit. Falter has been faulting lately. He hasn't been very good. Giving up hard contact, high average exit velocity. Minnesota, I think they're very interesting. And then Texas has just been crushing the ball. Kyle Hendricks is not a guy I like to go against as far as my stacks, but Texas has been hitting the ball very, very well. And behind Hendricks is a poor bullpen. So if they can get to Hendricks and get him out of the game quick, it's another blow-up type spot for Texas, and don't mind taking that. Cubs, definitely like them. We talked about them a little bit as well. Cincinnati at home versus a righty is a spot where you got to consider, even if it is a decent pitcher. 3.67 FIP over his last five for Alcantara is decent. Padres versus Brandon Pfaff. This is another possible type blow-up spot, but it is in Petco, which isn't very hitter-friendly. They need to get Pfaff out. Pfaff is a boom bust pitcher. So it's kind of the situation where I either want a ton of Padres or very little. So I either want those 5-man, 4-man stacks or none. I don't really want small stacks of the Padres today. I think as a team they go off, or it's another one of those 2, 3, 4 run type outings that just don't really do much for you in DFS. And Arizona's the opposite for me. I don't want the 5-man stacks. I would rather the 2, 3-man stacks for Cease. So that's going to do it for us today, guys. I think there's a ton of different ways you can go. My favorite stacks are absolutely Boston, A's, and Braves today, but don't mind some leverage spots with, Colorado and a couple others. Hope you guys have a good one. We'll be back with more tomorrow. Let's make some money. Have a great Wednesday. See you later, guys. Peace.